23 board meeting. Happy New Year. Hope everybody's holiday was restful but fun. And we're going to start with roll call. Mrs. Onaker.
May we record a time?
5:04.
President Kaminsky,
Present.
Vice President Kelly,
Present.
Clerk Wood. Here. Trustee Cooper,
Here.
Trustee Sorensen. Here. Trustee Napier,
Here.
Trustee Sweeney. Here. Superintendent Larson Everson,
Present.
and I'm Idalia Amaker.
All right, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, Cummings Valley Vice Principal Abelardo Sabaikas. I've been practicing and practicing. My apologies. Abelardo Sabaikas.
Thank you. Please stand. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection.
Thank you. You may be seated. Item 2, public comments for closed session. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, at this time we're going to adjourn the present open session and go into closed session. We are going to conduct student discipline discussions and hearings under Education Code Section 48900 et sequitur per Education Code 35146 and 48918 subsection C. The Education Code requires closed sessions in these cases to prevent disclosure of confidential student record information. This is student case 2022-2023, number 1. At this moment, we're adjourned at 5:07. All right, we're going to resume open session and in reporting out for closed session at 5:35. The Board of Trustees of the Tehachapi Unified School District, after having reviewed the evidence presented to the board today, January 10th, 2023, finds and orders as follows. Case number 2022-2023-1, student is hereby expelled from the Tehachapi Unified School District from January 10th, 2023 through January 1st, 2024. Mrs. Amaker, we need a roll call vote.
President Kaminsky.
Aye.
Vice President Kelly.
Aye.
Clerk Wood.
Aye.
Trustee Cooper.
Aye.
Trustee Sorensen.
Aye.
Trustee Napier.
Aye.
Trustee Sweeney. Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Approval of the agenda. Before we need to make a deletion on the agenda. Item number 10. 10.3, approval of 2022-2023 School Accountability Report Cards, SARCs. We have not received information that we need from the California Department of Education, so those SARCs cannot be completed, and so can't vote on something that's not ready.
I'll make the motion without 10,
Is that what?
number 10.3.
10.3. Do I have a second?
Kelly, a second.
Okay, it was motion by Clerk Wood, seconded by Vice President Kelly to remove item 10.3 from tonight's agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 10.3 is removed from the agenda for tonight.
Just to clarify, Clerk Wood, was your motion to approve the agenda with the removal?
Yes.
Of item 10.3? Okay,
okay.
just verifying, thank you.
So the agenda has been approved. And now we have general function, superintendent update. Superintendent Larson Everson.
Thank you, President Kaminsky. Good evening, board and visitors, staff, parents. Good to see everyone. A few updates for you this evening. Mr. McKay, if you could go ahead and go to the first slide. As is our newly established tradition this year, we're continuing with implementation of Capturing Kids' Hearts. So we're going to launch this evening with talking about our hoorays, something that we model for the students, starting to start off on a positive note, and we carry that on here in our board meetings as well. So the first hooray, if you can go to the next slide, please, is that we hope that students, staff, and families enjoyed a wonderful winter break. Happy New Year to everyone, and we're glad to see everyone back here in the boardroom and back in school. You see a couple of pictures up there. Before we went on the holiday break, we had time to have breakfast with some of our team members from across the district, from all departments, and do a little holiday celebrating together, and that was really, really nice and enjoyed by all of us. So Happy New Year, everyone. Good to see you here, and hope you had a wonderful break. We'll go ahead and go on to the next hooray. I'd like Dr. DeFrancis to come on up, and he will share a hooray with you.
Good evening. So the Special Education Department ran a parent survey for the month of December. And if you wanted to, you could be entered into a drawing for a free Nintendo Switch. We hope that would solicit more information. And hopefully I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Rayner family won. And we were actually able to deliver to them. I thought the picture was going to be up there, I guess not. But a young gentleman, I think probably second grade, so made his Christmas. Hooray.
Hooray! Thank you, Dr. DeFrancis. Next up, I'm going to invite Ms. Kendra Bailey, principal from Golden Hills Elementary.
Good evening, Superintendent Larson Everson, and good evening, members of the board. So we're excited about intervention at Golden Hills. Our students have been involved in tutoring for some time and are starting their second session, but these kiddos just arrive in the morning really happy and eager to learn, and it's not really a surprise to us. Our tutoring teachers are Chris Phillips, Deshaun Treyas, Deb Rush, Katarina Lozano, and Carrie Perkins, and they have just been making this time meaningful and engaging for these students. So it's a long day for them. They come early in the morning, but seeing them just excited to start school early and to have that extra experience and opportunity is heartwarming. Students in our RTI program led by Kim Ross are making really strong progress in areas of need, and then they're being exited. And some of them, I have to share, don't want to leave, because they love being with her and the time that they're having. But those students are being replaced by other students who are able to receive targeted intervention as well. And so it's really an effective program that she's got going. She's using data to drive that program. But her focus really has been on improving self-efficacy. So these students, their confidence levels have really shot up, and it's making a huge difference. So just really excited to see students making progress, back to school, happy. So just want to share that. Hooray.
Hooray.
Hooray. Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. And Principal at Tompkins Elementary, Mrs. Ray.
Good evening. So I wanted to share that thanks to our school psychologist, Sam Frankhauser, I did a little switch of rooms, because if you've ever been at Tompkins, the social worker was in what I've been told is the fishbowl. It's this little, I see Mr. Kaminsky laughing. It was a little tiny room with glass all over it, and our psychologist had a nice big room, and so the social worker wasn't able to have relaxation station, which is at recess. It's an alternative to the playground for those students who maybe are struggling with making friends, and so they go into a smaller space and they have games. Those students that are struggling with social emotional issues, or some of them just want to get out of the cold, let's be honest. So they have there's kind of a lottery, they get to go in. So they switched spaces for me last week, and now we have this beautiful big room that can accommodate 15 to 20 students at every recess, and they have games, and it's facilitated by our social worker, Michelle Haggerty. So that's a huge hooray for our students.
Hooray. Thank you, Mrs. Ray. And Dr. Porter.
We have a TILA hooray. The students at TILA had lots of fun before break. They had a book exchange, they made gingerbread houses, and Santa Claus visited, who might look like this guy right here. But his daughter is in the class that I think you had to tell her that Santa wrote you a letter asking you to come by, and it was a big top secret thing. But it was fun, and now we're back and continuing our focus on project-based, hands-on activities for students and making learning fun and engaging. Thank you.
Hooray. Thank you, Dr. Porter. Okay, Mrs. Markison from Cummins Valley.
Hello, Superintendent Larson Everson and the rest of the board. Good evening. My name is Taylor Marquison. Our hooray is something exciting coming to CV, which is the actual Battle of the Books that we're going to start this year. So when I reached out to our staff, we had two very, very eager one of our actual instructional paraprofessionals that were willing to totally take this on. One is Miss Cachola. They're on the left with the dark hair, and then on the right is Mrs. Vinzer. And what they're doing is they're meeting with students each week, going over their book list and making sure that they're ready, so that in May we're able to go and also be able to compete with the rest of all of Kern County for the Battle of the Books.
Hooray. Thank you, Mrs. Markison, and thank you to all of our administrative team for taking the time to prepare hoorays for this board meeting and every board meeting. It's great to hear all the things that are happening at the school sites. Just moving on for a brief minute to talk a little bit more about capturing kids' hearts. Most educational researchers consider motivation to be a principal element in learning. And part of our work with capturing kids' hearts is centered on inspiring and motivating our students. So you see on the slide, not going to read it, but there's a little definition of motivation up there. But just to help all of us connect a bit with capturing kids' hearts and some of the ways we try to look at ourselves and how we're engaging with the students as well, is to think in terms of motivators and which motivators inspire or encourage us in the work that we do with each other and with our students. Could it be being part of a team, being included and having an opinion sought out, tangible task accomplishment, predictability and stability, discussions with others, checking things off my list. I know that's a big one for me. I find that very satisfying to get to check something off. Taking on a challenge. Chocolate for some people can be a big motivator. And verbal encouragement. So those are just, that list could go on, and it might be a little bit different for all of us and certainly different for every student, and things that we might be able to find in common with students in our classrooms as well. Talking about the opposite effect, when we think about some of the things that might be inhibitors for us, that might demotivate us, they might also be demotivators for students, like when we keep encountering obstacles to task completion, or having to balance a lot of people's feelings and emotions at one time, having too much repetition and routine, a lack of structure, lots of details, encountering harsh communication style, tension or conflict, being told what to do or how to do it. And you talk to my husband about that one. Some of us react poorly to that. And things that are too abstract. So these are, again, just to give you an idea of, again, it's trying to motivate students, trying to engage them each and every day. You got to hear hoorays, but it's also authentically looking at the engagement and how we're asking students to learn, and if they have those opportunities to feel truly engaged and motivated, day in and day out. Thank you, Mr. McKay. If you could go to the next slide, please. So, good link with capturing kids' hearts is the Great Kindness Challenge. So, carrying on the tradition that has been here in TUSD later on this evening. It will come before the board to consider approving a proclamation for the Great Kindness Challenge, which is January 23rd through the 27th this year. And the Great Kindness Challenge, if you're not familiar with it, it's really all about encouraging students and staff to engage in simple acts of kindness. So I listed a few simple things that you might want to try now and also during the Great Kindness Week. Smiling at 25 people, giving someone a sincere compliment, telling a joke, making someone laugh. I'll let you read the rest of them, but I think this is a very important connection with capturing kids' hearts, and I look forward to seeing all the great things that our schools are going to be doing during the Great Kindness Challenge. Okay, let's go on to enrollment. The data provided this evening is from week 22, which ended on January 6th, 2023. It's hard to get used to, that 2023 part. You can see the numbers for the same time period, week 22, for 21-22 are in the left column, and then the numbers for this year are in the right column. Again, the breakdown on TILA is a little bit different because last year, that TILA was not a school site in and of itself. All of those students were actually counted in the enrollment from their homeschool site, which is the case this year for 9 through 12. However, the 109 students who are attending TILA currently in grades K through 8 are attending that separate school, and they have their own CDS code too. So anyway, bottom line results are that our current enrollment as of January 6th was 4,215, which is an increase of 51 students over the same time period from last year. If you could go to the next slide, please. Just taking a quick look at attendance. Again, these These have been pretty tough numbers ever since COVID, but I do have a comparison down there in the far right bottom so that you can just see where we were at this time year to date in 21-22. We were at 86.7%. That was our district-wide attendance rate. And this year, year to date, we're at 91.38. So we know how important it is for kids to be in school every day to promote their learning, growth, and development. And we hope these numbers continue to strengthen and improve as, COVID continues to diminish. Go to the next slide, please. I have a sports update for you. Lots of pictures up there for you to enjoy. Tehachapi High has done an amazing job in all sports. They won many championships in the fall season and continue to perform well midway through the winter season. So far, THS has won South Yosemite Mountain League championships in varsity boys football, JV boys football, Frosh Soft boys football, varsity girls volleyball, JV girls volleyball, varsity girls golf, varsity girls tennis, and JV girls cross country. In playoff action, our varsity girls volleyball and varsity girls tennis teams reached the CIF Central Section semifinals, and the varsity boys football team reached the CIF quarterfinals. Our football coach, Chris Krempian, was also named Bakersfield Channel 17 FFX Coach of the Year. Hooray! We also had multiple student athletes named to their respective all-league teams. So far this winter season, our very talented varsity girls basketball team is rated #1 team in Kern County according to Max Preps. If you're a sporty, you know Max Preps. You can look it up it's an app, you can get it on your phone, or you can just look at results. And the boys basketball, boys soccer, girls soccer, and wrestling teams have also posted impressive wins so far. I also want to thank Mr. and Mrs. Tom Shea for their continued support of our student athletes and providing us with excellent photos to share and celebrate the accomplishments and hard work of our athletes, coaches, and families. Let's give a hooray. Hooray. That was a lot of accomplishments. All right. Next slide we have up is Monroe graduates, another celebration here. December 14th, our fall class of 2022. We had a celebration over in the gym at Tehachapi High School. We had 19 graduates that evening. Trustee or Clerk Wood and myself attended, and so I want to read these students off by name and congratulate them for their accomplishment. And we can, I hope, give a hooray for these 19 students. Marcos Aguilar, Cielo Ann Benitez, Andrew Carlton Branch, Caroline Annette Champagne, Caleb Allen Chrysler, David Evan Grambler, Devin Allen Jacobson, Nala Lynn Lane, Tara Sky Mackey, Caitlin Rose McDaniel, Maxwell Keith Motley, Matias David Orellana Castro, Charles Joseph Seymour, Michaela Rose Silva, Mark Lloyd Stoner, Alejandra Torres, Crystal Vera, Cadence Wilson, and Madison Dance Young. Congratulations to all of our graduates. Hooray! Hooray! Next slide, please. As you can see up here in our boardroom, we have excellent bulletin board displays that were put together by Tehachapi High School. And here we have Principal Libatique and Vice Principal Hoffman to share some information and a slide presentation for you about THS. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Ms. Hoffman came to give me moral support. So we've spent a lot of time in board meetings talking about CTE. And last year, we were so grateful because you approved a CTE coordinator. Through that, you'll see the work that Julie Heaslett has done. She's sick today, so she couldn't come, but really helped to kind of make our program even more robust. So while we have many good things to offer at THS, you heard about our athletics, you heard about Monroe's graduation. I'm going to focus tonight specifically on CTE. So if you look, these are our CTE sectors and pathways that we have available at Tehachapi High School. All of this is also on the board over there if you want a closer view. I don't know how to fix this, I'm sorry. Just, if somebody knows the secret, back up, turn around, put your hands on your head. So these are all the pathways that.
Oh, I didn't know it was on.
There, okay, thank you. I thought I was doing something. So these are all the pathways that we offer. Next slide, please. CTE stands for Career and Technical Education. These classes help with career skills training, helping students to become college or work ready. Currently, we have 960 of our students enrolled in a CTE course out of about 1,233, if I remember the number correctly. Part of being a CTE and qualifying for the CTIG grant, which is that incentive grant, which is kind of what pays our CTE bills, is having a CTSO, so a student organization. So we have a few of them. I asked Mr. McKay to not play these videos because you don't need to be here longer, but if you're really interested in them, then you can click play. Skills USA is an overarching CTSO for all of the CTE, and it's really about like soft skills, work skills, leadership skills, and helping students to become responsible citizens. We have a drama club. They meet once a week during lunch. It is so fun in there. They do a lot of improvs, and if you know Mrs. Nadon, she is full of energy and personality, and definitely the students are enjoying their time in there. This year, our graphic design students created a design club. So they went through the club process and created their design club supported by Mr. G. We also have an esports club, which is actually Mr. D started during COVID time, trying to give students something that they could do remotely that would still connect them to this school. So they are very involved. If you walk down the hallway on a Wednesday at lunchtime, you can hear all kinds of, they sing like Sweet Caroline while they're playing, and it is some gaming fool happening there in a good way. And then we also have CERT, which is our community emergency response team, our teen CERT, that's headed up by Ms. Teresa Guadalupe. So now you're going to see all the fun that we have been having, spending our CTIG grant, going out to do part of CTE as hands-on real-world experience. So we started in September. Thank you. COVID restrictions are lifted and we get to go on field trips. So took a group to BC, Bakersfield College for Manufacturing Day. You can skip that. I'm going to go fast. We took a group, thank you to Instructional Services, we took a group to the Antelope Valley Air Show, the STEM Expo. And while I understand that it was very warm out at Edwards, the kids had a great time despite the heat. We took a group, so we have our manufacturing pathway, which is our graphic design, digital photos, and the arts and media pathway. And then also some of our art students came, and so they took a trip down to the Broad in LA. And we had our fall play. Again, Miss Nadon, if we have a spring play coming up, you're gonna wanna see it. The kids are great. Miss Nadon's amazing, and it's a good time. Bring the family. But this is an example of their fall play, which was Ghostlight. We took a group of females to Women in Trades. And so you can see all the different, this one's like a few slides that go with it. So looking at, if you want to go to the next one, so doing welding and the sheet metal. And so it's specifically, this field trip specifically is designed to engage women into trades. So the cement masons, operating engineers, and then this is something, I would never get on one of those. Oh my gosh, I would be crying. We also, although we don't currently have a foods class, we did get to go with Ms. Tapia, our food services. So she organizes this field trip to the food show, and kids get to try the different foods and then say, like, yes, this is something that we should offer in the cafeteria or not. It was always a good time, and they come back with snacks, which if you know me, that would get me there every time. The Hyundai tour, every student and adult that went on this field trip said this was the best field trip that they've been on in their lifetime. And so students, there's actually 2 videos. Again, we're not going to play them, but if you want to see, this has been featured like on the Jay Leno car show, which I know I'm not helpful with, but so we are fortunate that we have something very close by. Hyundai is one of our community partners, so they come and help us at our CTE advisory meeting. But students got to see how the cars are built. They get to see how they're test drove. They actually, if you want to go to the next slide, you can see how happy they are. I have it on good authority that the child in the middle there is not a smiler, and you can see the grin on his face. That's a smile for him. For how, so they, they skid the car, and then they have the engineering mechanics kind of allow it to correct itself. And the kids really, really enjoyed that. Too scary for me, but they had a great time. And so they get to go through the whole plant, and a lot of just good connections are made. So students, after, they do not take high school interns, but they do take college interns. So students can intern there, in their college years. And then Ms. Guadalupe teaches a computer apps class, and one of the activities that they did was creating a PowerPoint presentation, doing like a student, like a book study. And so they worked with Mr. Mejias's class, and then they did a culminating, presented their presentation, and then they decorated cookies. So fun. That was all on campus. Coming up, our digital photo is going to the Getty. These are some of their assignments. So the actual Getty picture, and then they create, that face might look familiar to you, and then they create their own Getty example. Very fun activity. And then this is something that they do with light exposure. So these are just some sample assignments, so you can see what happens inside the classroom. Go ahead. And sorry, the esports that you just passed, that was you went one fast, sorry. Okay, graphic design, this is some of their, every student got to bring a t-shirt, and then they got to print a t-shirt in the graphic design 1 class before vacation. That was kind of like their semester project. And then this is our gaming crew. So this is I believe this is Super Smash Bros. I'm so in the know, go ahead. So hip and happening. Computer literacy, they have done a lot of work with different types of programs. So taking pictures and then reproducing them, turning a picture. So the one on the left is, they actually took a student shot and then recreated it in Illustrator. So a lot of really good, exciting things happening on campus. You can go ahead. And so we have some upcoming events. If you have an 8th grader, they might have told you about the PE takeover today. Our CTE teachers went down and took over the gym. Thank you, Mr. Lowe. And so the students got to go through all the different class rotations to really try it out before they select their classes. And we also had THS students that went to kind of help mentor. And we are doing that same thing for our 9th graders. So we're also doing a THS PE takeover a little later on. We have a Pick Your Path night, which is coming up for our incoming freshman parent night. It kind of goes in conjunction with that. So it's sort of like an open house. Parents and students can come in and view. view the classroom and the different types of projects and activities that are happening in there. Our drama class is going on a Templeton Theater Review field trip. We have an Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day. Our CTE Advisory Committee, if you are a business community partner and you would like to come and partner with us, please show up March 15th at 2:45, little plug there. We have our spring play coming up and then our Getty field trip. So I believe that is all for me. Thank you for bearing with my nerves tonight. Hooray! Do you have any questions?
I was wondering if the kids ever, like Hyundai would ever do it'd be expensive. I don't know how to verbalize it, but I could just see like doing something, getting involved in academics and supporting a student with a car that got a scholarship to go to college or something.
I'll bring it up to Lee at the CTE meeting.
I have a comment. As a kid through high school that had zero direction, zero goals, zero plans other than just graduate, what my parents told me. I was really good at Spanish and woodworking. My dad's like, maybe you should move to Mexico and be a carpenter. That was kind of like the aspiration they gave me. Hearing all that is, I don't know if you guys remember Mr. Weaver. He was a woodshop teacher. We called him Coach Weaver. He was like my best friend. Taught us to work with our hands and construction and inspired me and a bunch of my friends just to go work. And those types of things are so incredibly valuable to our kids. And so thank you for that presentation. That was exciting and cool. I saw my daughter in a couple of those pictures, but my oldest daughter, Faith, was inspired by Mr. G in graphic design, and she's now at Point Loma University in San Diego going for a graphic design major. So this kind of thing it's not just reading, writing, arithmetic, there's so much more there. So I'm going to come to your meeting in March. So that's good.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Libatique. We just have a couple more slides to work our way through.
One more comment.
Yes.
Do we have access to that presentation to see the videos? Because I didn't see that in an attachment to the update.
We'll attach it. We can send it out to you.
Yeah, if you could send that, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Sorry, I'm slowed down because I'm writing that down. Okay, I apologize. Sipping with the Soup, just a reminder, the next one coming up will be on February 7th, 7:30 to 10. Everybody's welcome to join us. We'll provide the coffee and the danishes and hopefully some good conversation as well. Next slide, please. Couple other upcoming dates. This you can link to our district calendar on the website, but just a couple dates of notes, and you will see in bold there upcoming board meetings, including the governing board workshop scheduled for the 17th, another one scheduled for February 7th, and then, of course, our next regular board meeting after this evening will be on Tuesday, February 14th. Go to the next slide, please. So before I close it out for this evening, a couple things I do want to mention. One is our Facilities Advisory Committee, the FAC applications to be on the Facilities Advisory Committee are available on our TUSD website. So I would encourage parents, staff, students, and community members to apply to be on the FAC. Again, those applications are up on our website. And we also sent that out via Parent Square. And Claudia did a great article in the Tehachapi News also about that opportunity. And then the last item that I wanted to mention is at the last board meeting, President Kaminsky had inquired about the intercom system work at JMS, and just wanted to give you a quick update for everyone to be able to hear that the installation work on site, the programming and so forth and configuration happened previously, but the on-site install is happening this week. They're probably going to finish up on Saturday, and it should be full implementation, intercom, campus-wide, starting next week on Tuesday when we come back to school. So that's really good news. So, hooray is right. All right, I think that is it. So that concludes my update for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Larson Everson. TAT update. Ms. Bowman.
have to talk quickly, my battery's almost dead. Good evening, President Kaminsky, trustees, Superintendent Larson Everson, and members of the public. My name is Val Bowman, and I'm the Tehachapi Association of Teachers president. Today, TAT Executive Board would publicly like to thank the TAT bargaining and the district bargaining teams for negotiating so diligently on December 14th. Open communication allowed the process to jump forward by leaps and bounds, and the effort is greatly appreciated. Currently, the tentative agreement is being polished and will be presented to TAT members very, very soon. It's been a month since I last addressed the board, and since that time, the holidays have come and gone. We hope that everyone was able to have a wonderful time enjoying those days in whatever fashion made you the most happiest. The break was nice for students and staff too. Now we're back to the everyday running of our classrooms, speech rooms, and nurses' offices. Just a few days into second semester, and everyone is gearing up for all the events that happen in winter and spring, like assessments and testing and trainings and WASC and sports and field trips, and so much more. June, while it might seem far away, really isn't. And for educators, it certainly is not. There's so much to do, and it seems like there just aren't enough hours in the day to get it all done. But my wise friend told me that a short meeting contains short speeches, so I'm all done. So have a great evening.
Thank you, Ms. Bowman. Is there a CSEA update? Seeing none, a PTO update. Hello, what's your name and what school are you from? Oh, turn your mic on.
Hi, I'm Brianna Schultz. I'm the president of the Tompkins Parent-Teacher Group. I'm so excited. You guys are excited. I didn't realize there was a fan club. This is my first year being president. We moved up here 2 years ago, and my oldest is in kindergarten. So we started during the COVID year, and then once everything went back, he went back to school, and I started as the president there. So it's been a fun ride, getting everything up and running again after COVID, which has been, hard. Right now, we're doing a really exciting gift card fundraiser. If anybody's interested, essentially you buy Albertsons gift cards, Walmart gift cards, and you pay $100 for a $100 gift card, and Tompkins gets a commission off of that. So you spend the same amount of money. So we're trying to push that to parents. We have a donation-based fundraiser in March, and we have a bingo night coming up in a couple of weeks. It's our second one this year. Our first one was really well attended, so we're hoping that that holds true for our January one. And then we have a family dance coming up in February. We're trying really hard to focus on making all the extracurriculars accessible to everyone. We want everything from little teeny candygrams to field trips and everything in between to be accessible to all, to not be excluding any of the kids. So that's the main push behind our fundraising. We are coming across difficulties in volunteers and parent participation. So we're working on potentially getting another volunteer drive going, because there's things like the student store that we're just not able to have because we don't have the volunteers to do it, which is hard. But anyways, we are here to help, and we're happy to help. So if you guys need anything from us, we're always all ears. And if you have any suggestions as well, we are more than happy to take them. So thank you guys for your time, and thanks for all the excitement, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Schultz. Principal Ray, I believe you're in my debt, and if you would rather purchase a gift card from PTO and give it to me, that will suffice. All right. Oh, you have a question? Go ahead, Trustee
I wanted to
Sorensen.
know, are the kids gonna be going door to door to sell this stuff? And then after that question, my next thought is, are they gonna be rewarded, like throwing in the pie in the principal's face, or how is that gonna go?
No door-to-door selling. Basically, our gift card fundraiser is just going to be going through the parents. So we're going to be sending out a Parent Square notification. It is all online. So we're going to be marketing it on our Facebook page and our Tompkins page and the Parent Square. So no door-to-door, anything on that. And then our donation-based fundraiser, same exact thing. We're asking parents to send out 10 emails to get donations. And then the reward for that, is Golden Hills here? You guys are having your Day of Awesome soon, right?
Right, it got postponed a little bit because of weather, but yeah, it should be in the spring.
So Golden Hills, we're using the same company that you're using. It's called Step It Up, and it's basically this company comes in and brings all kinds of inflatables, obstacle courses, dance parties, all kinds of stuff where these kids have an amazingly fun day. All kids participate regardless of whether or not they earned any money through the fundraiser, regardless of whether or not their parents sent out those 10 emails. Every single kid gets to go to the Day of Awesome.
That's really awesome, because I know from experience, the kids get pressure, and if they don't make it, then they're not gonna have the snow cone party, and then it just becomes a big emotional production at home too.
Right,
Thank
no,
you.
none of the kids will be left out on this. The gift card fundraiser, that's geared more towards the adults. The kids probably don't even know what's going on. And so we don't have any real reward other than, hey, sign up to get a gift card by the end of March and you will be entered to win a $100 Apple gift card. It's more geared towards the adults on that one, so. But yeah, no door-to-doors for the kids. No problem. Any other questions? Sorry, I kind of ran off. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you again. Board communications. Any board member? Mr. Napier?
I have a couple. Yesterday, we got to go to Standard Elementary or Middle School, Bakersfield for basketball for JMS, and it was awesome. It was crazy. The gym was packed there. I just want to thank Val Bowman because I can't imagine the coordinating effort that goes into coordinating that chaos of kids and junior high kids. When I grew up in this town, there was no middle school athletics. It came in shortly after I kind of moved on. But you watch the kids play, and you just watch them work throughout the season in any sport in middle school, volleyball or basketball specifically. But you kind of watch them work out the lack of confidence in performing in front of a crowd, and those little quirks that come into play on the court. And there's probably 200 to 300 people there. It was mind-boggling. But it's just so nice that our district puts that effort into middle school athletics. Because not every district does. I know some of the staff that works here, you guys understand that, but I hope the public realizes that that's not normal, that middle schools have athletics for them and travel and invest the money and the time and energy. Mr. Syndrome, Mr. Heckathorn, amazing coaches, but anyways, I just want to say thanks to Val Bowman and the coaching staff. I have 3 kids that are between the girls and the boys teams, but it was just awesome to see those kids back. No one was wearing masks. Everyone was excited, having fun. So yeah, thank you guys for that who are involved in coordinating that. Secondly, I'd like to thank Claudia from Tehachapi News for the article, getting that out there, the superintendent for getting the facilities committee out on Parent Square. Yes, please share with your friends. This is a moment in time where we can step into a 3 to 5 year endeavor here to take a big comprehensive look at our facilities, and that's not just sports. Corey's not here, so I can say that out loud and not feel bad. But Corey loves sports, but I'm looking at all sports, facilities in particular. So spread the word. It doesn't have to be parents or staff, whatever. It could be anybody who is interested in putting the time in. So anyways, thank you, Claudia and Superintendent, for getting that out there. That was it.
Thank you, Trustee Napier. Any other
Yeah, I have one I'd like to add on
go
to
ahead.
the Monroe graduation that I went to. A shout out to Sherry Kabanik. Those students and those parents had so much gratitude for her. Every student hugged her, thanked her, the parents. It was amazing. We have a really great teacher in that position and nurturing all those kids to succeed. It was amazing. So that's a hooray. Hooray!
Thank you, Clerk Wood. I would echo those comments. Sherry's on my staff at JMS, and once in a while, when I'm at THS, I pop in to see her, and the kids are working, and she's an awesome lady. And I thought she'd retire after her son graduated, but no, she's dedicated and a true professional. Vice President Kelly.
Thank you. I'm thinking this is the right place to put this. I know that we moved the personnel reports to the consent agenda, but moving forward, knowing that personnel accounts for 80 to 85% of our budget, I would still hope that we could have the personnel director, if that's her title, I apologize, Dr. Romero, to give us a report monthly of where we're at. It doesn't need to be the confidential information, which is kind of why we moved it, but it's just to give us a heads up of where we're at and where we might be short and how your department is being ran and getting us people in here. So I would like to see that in the future if it's possible. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I have two. After the last board meeting, I had emailed management staff at CCing the superintendent to ask if I could meet with them sometime in this month or next. Some of them I don't know. Others I do. Some I hired. To this date, I have met with Mr. Gilbert and will be meeting this week with Ms. Bailey and Ms. Hall, Mr. Lowe and staff at JMS, and in the future with Dr. Porter at TILA and the administrators and staff at THS. I would also like to remind those management folks that not on the schedule yet, that while it is not mandatory, it would be nice to meet up or catch up with them and to also learn about their departments or site. And you can email me. I have district email, pkaminsky@teachbusd.com. And I would like the board during this time, I met with the superintendent and with Grant Herner from Schools Legal yesterday and on Brown Act. And part of the presentation was on agenda. And so, Superintendent, correct me if I misspeak, but I would like to put the future items category back on the regular agenda. But no decision can be made tonight. But if we can come to a consensus, one way or the other, to put the discussion on the agenda for February to be discussed, that would be great. One example to put on in a future agenda item category would be board self-evaluation. We would also follow Board Policy 9322 in considering any proposed agenda item request made by a board member. So anyone want to contribute and give their feelings one way or another to having future agenda items on the regular agenda?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'm in support of having it there. One of the reasons why we took it off was because things sat there and never moved along. So I think if we're going to add something to it, that maybe we put a deadline to get it discussed by then, or we give it one, you know what I mean? We talk about it one meeting and it's on the agenda the next. Something along those lines, so it doesn't become stagnant and sit there indefinitely.
Yeah, I think at that point, the superintendent and I, in our agenda build meetings, if something sat there, we need to have a discussion and make that proposal to take it off. I would hope that we would agree to put something on, just to go back to that board policy. The superintendent and I agree that the board's member suggestion for the item is made, if we feel it's shouldn't be on the agenda, then that board member has the right to take it to the board for basically a vote to put it on the agenda.
For the
Anyone else?
record, a little clarification, we never voted to take that off the agenda. That was just arbitrarily removed by either the previous president. We never took a formal action to remove that. The way I view that process to look would be, let's not just create 15 things that we'll deal with later. I think we should go through the process. What's number 9322? We submitted an email request to the board president and superintendent. I would like a item, Either, it depending upon the timing of that request, or if it's tomorrow, then I make a request to you. Well, I probably wouldn't bring it up next meeting because it may be on the next meeting. If it's sometime in between there, I think, hey, for transparency to the public and the board, hey, my intent is to, make a request to the board president for an agenda item to just transparency. And I think it helps the public and the board know that, okay, Trustee Napier is making a request for something, and if it doesn't show up, I think that should all raise some red flags. Well, why wasn't that brought up? What's happening on the back end, or did something change? I think it's a good moment for transparency. And I'm curious if Mr. Herndon gave clarification. If I bring up an agenda item to, change the mascot of Tompkins to something else, and the board has this consensus of, no, does that mean it's over? Because that seems like we're taking a vote. So that's always been a slight gray area, and I'm assuming we'll address that in the workshop when coming up. But those are the types of things that I want to ensure that we don't allow consensus in just a verbal moment to kill an item that someone is bringing to the table.
I would think that if you were bringing something, you would bring it for discussion first. We would discuss
Sorry,
it.
Trustee Wood and President Kaminsky,
Oh,
I hate
All
to
right.
interrupt. So
We're off on-
here's my concern, is that the way that this was addressed this evening was presented as for consensus, but it isn't an agendized item, and I feel like at this point, it's getting into extended conversation, and given that it's not an agenda item, that's my concern. That, so back to, if I can direct you back to our board president, that I think you called for if there was consensus. So if there's consensus, I think the extended discussion is great, but perhaps the extended discussion can happen once the item has been agendized.
Correct. I'm sorry. I'm
No
done.
worries. I apologize for interrupting.
Not a problem. You have a bunch of rookies up here, and I appreciate the guidance. We do have a consensus to put it on the agenda, as 4 of us have spoken in favor of putting it on the agenda to discuss.
Discuss.
Any other board communication? Seeing none, let's move to public comments. Public comments will be allowed. The board chair will recognize any member of the audience wishing to speak on items not on the agenda but directly related to the school business. Pursuant to Board Bylaw 9323, the board may limit comments to no more than 3 minutes per person. Public comment will also be allowed on each specific action item prior to board action. The president may allot time to those wishing to speak, but no action will be taken on matters presented, and no discussion of non-agenda items will occur. If appropriate, the president or any member of the board may direct that the matter be referred to the superintendent's office for placement on a future agenda. Please be reminded that if you have a comment for an item that is on the agenda, we ask that you hold your comment until that item is addressed within the agenda. And there's one, I believe, and I will get to that in turn. First up is Leslie Whiteside.
Good evening, board members. I'm excited for this new team and eager to see what you guys can accomplish together. It's just been great to have such a more positive vibe going with the hoorays and stuff. And I started attending all this during the middle of the lockdown, so it's it's kind of nice to have a better atmosphere and attitude going on. I just wanted to tickle your ears with a couple of things to kind of be preemptive. I know the ball starts rolling for next year, and so I had 2 items I wanted to mention. The first one, just really quickly, and hopefully maybe it's being addressed. It's a transportation department issue with the bus service. I don't know if any of you are aware how signups went this last year. I have 2 students in the district, and it was chaos. We waited 2 hours out in the hot sun of the parking lot at the transportation department. There was 1 computer, so they were issuing 1 bus pass at a time, and they took a lunch break and closed at 3. And if you were in line and 3 o'clock came, they'd still close down. And I understand they weren't paying overtime. And so what I'm thinking is a new family can move to our community and without knowing anybody can register completely online. And they don't have to wait in a parking lot, and there's not just one person helping them that I'm aware of. And I'm hoping that maybe we can do something similar for transportation and bus passes. Maybe put that online and mail the passes. I just feel like, or get a second computer and meet in a cafeteria so the parents aren't outside. Anything to sort of streamline that process. And I think since we have enrollment online, that might not be a big transition. I don't know who would be a part of that. But something to think about as we head into next year. The bigger part of what I wanted to say, though, is about the calendar. I know that gets improved in like June or whatever, but there's 38 weeks on the calendar. And I know there's a lot of stuff that goes on, and I don't have a doctorate or a master's or any training. I'm just a mom and a grandma. My opinion is that with 38 weeks, and I think a lot of studies and sources have told us that kids do good in rhythm and routine and consistency. Do you know how many of our 38 weeks are 5 full days? 10. Out of 38 weeks, only 10 are 5 full weeks. I think we can be more consistent for our students. Missing Monday, missing Friday, half-day Wednesdays. Now, I will say, I was here for Principal Bailey's presentation on capturing kids' hearts and how they're training on Wednesday afternoons. But I will also say that my kids are confused. Is today a half-day? Do we go to school today? And I don't know how the teachers in the actual classroom can get routine and rhythm going when we, out of 38 weeks, only offer them 10 full weeks. So as you're considering approving next year's calendar, I would hope we would really try to strive to have more than a third, or whatever percentage that is, of full weeks for our students. I think they deserve more rhythm, more routine, more consistency. I know you guys have made good use of the Wednesdays. If we take those out, we have 22 or 23 full weeks. That's much better, much better. So just something to consider as the calendar approaches and you're asked to approve it, look at how many weeks we're giving our kids that are full weeks of school. So, and I'm happy to present such a minor problem to you. I just think it's so good that we don't have big ugly things going on. And I just was counting that one day when I was, because the other part of that is that JMS and THS have 2 different kinds of half days. So as a parent, I have to look at this calendar, which says early release or minimum day, and then I have to go to the bus schedule, which doesn't say those things. And it's a lot of research to figure out what time to pick the kids up at. So
Thank you. Your time's up.
all right.
Sorry.
Anyway, so that's my plea is that just when that comes, remember the kids need a 5-day week now and then.
Thank you, Ms. Whiteside. Lupe Cowan.
I'm like right here, I knew it. I have a naturally loud voice anyway. Okay, good evening, board members and Superintendent Larson Everson. I'd like to begin by thanking you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of myself and many others as well. I'm a product of this district and am truly honored to be teaching at TUSD since 2005, especially after all the hoorays I just saw, and still absolutely love it. I've seen a lot of changes since then. Although change can be great and is a necessity, we must recognize and reflect on what works and what doesn't for student achievement and teacher efficacy. With data at our fingertips, we all recognize the needs of our students even more since the shutdowns and restrictions that were placed on us over the past few years. Like you, we as teachers want to see our TUSD students in our schools succeed to their fullest potential. And we know firsthand that it takes a well-prepared and dedicated teacher to make a powerful impact on our students' academic, social, and emotional success. There are several areas that we would really like you to consider, and with your help, will allow us to continue to be as prepared and ready. In the era where we've collaborated district-wide, researched best practices, and put capturing kids' hearts in place, we as teachers should be feeling on top of our game. Some of us are feeling more anxiety and stress than ever. We as teachers on the front line have overcome a lot. We'll begin by having our students shut down and going virtual. As teachers, we continue to have restrictions like the lack of access to our campuses. Prior to the pandemic, we had full access to our classrooms, weekends included. I realize you may feel that having a 7:30 p.m. cutoff is sufficient. Adhering to this policy, though, comes at a heavy cost to many. Due to the rise in SSTs, IEPs, and tutoring, our mornings and afternoons are taken up with meetings, which further takes away from our time to prepare. For some of us, it means not eating dinner with our families at a decent time because the only time we have is after work to make differentiated, fun, and engaging lessons for all our students who have more needs than ever. Not all of us can stay every day summer soccer, baseball, or football moms, or we can take our fathers, and we can take care of our elderly parents, and it makes for a 10 to 12-hour day, Monday through Friday. Teachers are one of the few professions where we are committed to working extra hours just to get that one lesson as perfect as we can. I personally work the after-school program leadership and am the ELAC coordinator. There are times I've asked to come on campus so I can fulfill my job duties with ease and have been denied access. We're asking that you consider us as professionals, that we can come to some agreement on access to our schools that would fit our needs and relieve some stress on us. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Cowan. Brian Reel. Now, Brian, you have two, and one is not on the agenda, and the other one is.
Correct.
So did you want to talk on the one that is when that comes up?
Yes, please.
Okay. So go ahead with your one on the other topic.
Thank you, President Kaminsky and members of the board. I think I know most of you, but my name is Brian Reel. I have two kids in the district. My wife is PTO president for Golden Hills and a substitute teacher. I've taken note that both TAT and CSEA have made significant strides as they've bargained with the district over the past months, and that's a great thing. We need to do everything we can to attract and retain high-quality certificated and classified staff. I'm here today to ask you to not forget about the frontline district employees that aren't represented by a union. And I'm talking about substitutes specifically, but there's probably other employees that should be considered as well. These employees don't have anyone bargaining for them, but there's strong evidence that they need an advocate, and I'll get to that in a minute. I can speak most informed regarding substitute teachers. I know that a review of the substitute teacher pay across the county might give the appearance that TUSD substitutes are well compensated, and on paper, I think that's true, but it's a matter of supply and demand. And this year, I know there's been multiple professional development days canceled because the district could not provide substitutes. So when there's a demand, pay must be increased in order to increase the supply. I'd also like to point out that there's currently no differential pay between short-term and long-term substitutes, as if the expectation of those two roles were the same. And I'm here to tell you that it's not. A short-term sub would not spend nights grading papers or writing lessons plans. A short-term sub would not be observed by county personnel. A short-term sub wouldn't reinvent a gradebook because they don't have access to ARIES. And a short-term sub wouldn't handle parent communications or write sub-plans for days when they would be absent. A short-term sub wouldn't know that computers prohibit login on the sub account after 5 p.m., or nor would they be assigned to attend IEP meetings. So a long-term sub is not the same, and I think there should be a pay differential that reflects that. And I said I'd come back to how I know that all district substitutes need an advocate. There is a 2015 California law that requires all employees that work at least 30 days in a year to be provided 24 hours sick time per year, regardless of whether they're part-time, temporary, or seasonal. And the district doesn't currently provide that to substitutes. So that's quite a few years of non-compliance with that law, as far as I can tell. In closing, I'd encourage the board to take a look at all the non-union staff pay and benefits, because it seems they get lost without a bargaining unit or an advocate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reel. Gail Purdy.
I've kind of missed a lot of you when we were doing our gatherings to meet all the prospective trustees. We got pretty close, had a lot of time together, a lot of communication, and I have to admit I miss it, but I look forward to the meetings where I get to see you guys again. So I'm going to be quick. Thank you all for coming, being here, and taking on this job. Thank you for the Superintendent Larson Emerson for all that she does, and she does a lot, much that a lot of people wouldn't even know. So I want to be quick, and I want to advocate for more time for teachers to teach academics, and that's kind of what my main priority is. And so I have, instead of putting it on your doorstep, I brought it with me, some handouts, and it's regarding a curriculum that is more academics-based, and so it takes less time away. Oh, how nice, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. There's some extra, just in case somebody wanted to see what I'm handing out. But this talks about a lot of the disadvantages of the curriculum that we have, that the curriculum we have promotes equity, which means you take away from those who have worked hard and give it to people as a way to supposedly make it more equal, that are not as qualified. You'll find that paperwork, the first piece of paper was the last page of the biggest packet, and that's like a graph, shows more visually what the CASEL curriculum promotes. Then you'll find supporting documentation that I got off the website that's no longer available on the TUSD website. I don't know why. But I think as far as transparency goes, I think that's real important. So if there's anything anybody can do or say to get it back on, or get the updated version, or whatever, it could be that's why it was 2020 was the one that I had. The next little stapled place is Virginia. In their effort to be equitable, withheld merit scholarships.
Gail, your time is up, so please, you need to wrap it up.
Yeah, that's about it. Withheld the merit scholarships from the students so that when they applied for college, they couldn't, because the other kids couldn't get merit scholarships. Okay, so that's the next one. And the last thing is, this is just a reminder that it's not on the website. You know, when you have something in hand, a piece of paper, it's go, oh yeah, a memory jogger. So that's all this is. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. All right, consent agenda. All consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be taken together as one action item. There will be no separate items unless a board member so requests. If it is taken out, it'll be pulled for a separate motion, and the board president will have a separate vote. Are there any questions or comments from the board regarding the consent agenda? Before anybody talks, I'm going to ask that item 12, approval of donations to each school site from the Kelly family, be taken out of the consent agenda and be regarded separately. As Vice President Kelly, we want him to vote on the rest of the consent agenda. And then I do have a comment on item 6. Mr. Nazari did communicate with me. He replied to a question I had this afternoon. One of the items was about $195,000. And I'm trying to remember if, it seems way back when anything over a certain amount of money could not be on the consent agenda and had to be the items for cafeteria tables. There's no issues with it that I have. It's just a question I have on the amount and whether it should be on there because of that.
I think we did a quick review of board policy to take a look to see if we could find anything in there, and we didn't see anything at first glance, so I can always check with Mr. Herndon or CSBA to see if they have a recommendation.
Yeah, it occurred to me as I went through it this morning, and again, nothing, I've been in all 3 cafeterias and multipurpose rooms at all 3 schools, and they definitely need new tables.
It's been a topic that we've talked about a lot with our CSCA team members and the custodians who have to push those tables and move them around, so I agree that we need them, but beside the point.
And I do have one item with the personnel reports now being on the consent agenda. I just want to make sure everybody's aware and does not have a problem with me voting, or does, let me know, because my wife's name is on the personnel report. So not individualized, just as in a group, but I just want to throw it out there, so.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kelly. I think based on what I know, that I don't think you have to conduct a recusal for that one, but thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now, so do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda excluding item 12?
Kelly, I make the motion.
I'll second.
It was motioned by Vice President Kelly and seconded by Clerk Wood to vote and approve the consent agenda without item 12. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item carries 7-0. Now, I believe policy is for the board member that is pulling this in certain situations to be, to remove themselves from the room, but my opinion is that Vice President Kelly should be here because I want to read this very generous donation in public with him present to hear it.
Do I have to give you approval?
No, you don't. Vice President Dr. Tracy Kelly and the Kelly family have generously donated to Cummings Valley Elementary $200, Cummings Valley Elementary 5th grade class $100, Tompkins Elementary $200, Golden Hills Elementary $200, Jacobson Middle School $200, and Tehachapi High School $200. That's $1,100. Do I have a motion to approve item 12 on the consent agenda?
Motion.
I'll second.
This motion by trustee Du Sorensen and seconded by Clerk Wood that the donation from the Kelly family to the schools in the district be approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Kelly
All-
recuses.
Sorry. All opposed? Item passes 6-0. Okay. And I neglected to ask for public comment. Hooray.
That was short.
Oops. And sorry, I'm having cursor issues.
Me too.
Oh, there it is.
Did you curse it?
I want to. Okay, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah. Okay, item 8, superintendent. First item is approval of board policy 1312.3, uniform complaint procedures.
Thank you, President Kaminsky. Board Policy 1312.3 has been updated to reflect current California Education Code references contained within that policy that relate to the uniform complaint procedures in state preschool programs. I mentioned this when the item was brought forward in December as a first read, that we currently don't have a state preschool program. However, still feel it's important to keep our policies up to date, because at some point, we'd certainly love to have a state preschool program. So there's not a lot of significant changes, and it was presented as a first read in December, and so we'd like for you to consider approving this evening. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the public? From the board? Do I have a motion to approve policy 1312.3, uniform complaint procedures?
Aye. Aye. Motion. Motion. Again, the button and I are not getting along tonight.
Kelly, a second.
It's like your cursor.
Okay, it was, first motion was from trustee Du Sorensen. It was seconded by Vice President Kelly to approve policy 1312.3, uniform complaint procedures. And let me read the rest of this before we take a vote. The governing board recognizes that the district has the primary responsibility to ensure compliance with applicable state and federal laws and regulations governing educational programs. The board encourages the early resolution of complaints whenever possible. To resolve complaints, which may require a more formal process, the board adopts the uniform system of complaint processes spelled in 5 CCR 4600-4670 and the accompanying administrative regulation. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Approval of the Great Kindness Challenge. Proclamation.
Yes, thank you, President Kaminsky. We talked about it a little bit earlier in my update, that the Great Kindness Challenge is approaching later this month. And I think we can all agree that every student deserves to be treated with kindness and respect while attending TUSD schools, and we are continuously striving towards that goal. The Great Kindness Challenge Week promotes a positive school climate and culture for students and encourages our students to engage in 50 acts of kindness during that special week. It's also, as I mentioned earlier, a very good fit with capturing kids' hearts And it makes us all feel good to do acts of kindness. So it is without hesitation that I recommend to you this evening and request that the governing board approve the proclamation for the Great Kindness Challenge here in Tehachapi Unified School District. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the public? From the board? Do I have a motion
Motion.
and a second?
I'll second.
It was motioned by trustee Du Sorensen and seconded by clerk Wood to recommend that the board proclaim the week of January 23rd through the 27th, 2023, the Great Kindness Week. This is a roll call vote. Mrs. Zomaker.
President Kaminsky.
Aye.
Vice President Kelly.
Aye.
Clerk Wood.
Aye.
Trustee Cooper.
Aye.
Trustee Du Sorensen.
Aye.
Trustee Napier.
Aye.
Trustee Sweeney.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Business, Mr. Intezari.
Thank you very much, President Kaminsky and the board. Okay, so I will be presenting item 9.1 and regarding our solar project update. Just to kind of, there's the presentation. Yes. So just to kind of get into a little bit of the history. So in December 2020, we entered into an agreement to install solar at various sites. Just to provide a little information. So you are inheriting a bit of an ongoing project, but this is, we will be talking about two different types of solar arrays. So what's pictured here is the canopy version, which is what you would see over parking lots. And then we have the ground mount, which is what you would kind of expect in like a solar farm, just closer to the ground, taking up more space. So we have had the layouts approved for all of our sites except for Golden Hills, and then we'll kind of explain why. So here's just a really quick update on how this works and why we have elected to pursue solar. Next slide, please. So this is just briefly touching on how what is called the PPA will stand for Power Purchase Agreement and how it works. And essentially, instead of paying our entire utility bill to Southern California Edison or PG&E, we are now purchasing a large portion of our power through the solar. This comes at no upfront cost to the district. It is estimated to result in savings at the beginning of the first year of the 20-year agreement. So when that says 0% escalator for 20 years, that means that the rate that we are paying for the power generated by the solar, it remains fixed. We are monetizing a tax credit. So the state of California is providing tax credit for the equipment that goes into this power purchase agreement. And there's no operation and maintenance costs. As these are essentially, because there is no upfront cost, the company that does provide the service, Forefront Power, is upfronting the cost, and they recoup through what the rate that they charge us for the power that's generated. But as you can see, between our new lower utility bill and the payment that is generated from the solar power, the difference is the district that is the savings that should be generated by the district, and over the 20 years is estimated to be approximately $8 million. Next slide, please. So this is a layout of Golden Hills Elementary, and this is the initial array that was proposed. So that blue shaded area is the canopy that would have been installed over the parking lot. Just given kind of the space utilization, it was proposed just because it would provide the most benefit. But after considering some additional costs that include having to bring everything essentially, for lack of a better term, up to code in that area, and the additional cost of constructing the canopy array, we were looking at a significant time and cost And although it's not a significant upfront cost, the cost would be rolled into the power purchase agreement, resulting in like less savings for the district. So this was the original plan. But after careful consideration, we are proposing the ground mount array on the western side of the campus. Next slide, please. Okay, and so just to kind of show, it's kind of hard to tell because they're not blue, but those black boxes are essentially the proposed layout. That red line is proposing where we would, the point of interconnection, where essentially we are connecting to the grid. So when you see there that it says 145.8 kilowatt system, that is essentially, when you think of a kilowatt, you can think of that as like the size of the gas tank. When we talk about kilowatt hours, we're essentially talking about like miles per gallon. So this is just the size of the system is about 145 kilowatts. It wouldn't require any ADA upgrades, any significant construction costs, and it's a much closer to the electrical interconnection point, meaning that this could be developed quicker. It could be developed at a lower cost, resulting in a greater savings to the district, and this is the array that is being proposed. Next slide, please. So in comparison to the original plans, as you can see, this is a 148 kilowatt system. So compared to the 145, there is no loss in terms of like the size, even though this is essentially larger. It's only larger because there's more steel, more materials involved in constructing it. It does result in more construction going on into the parking lot, into the ADA accessibility, as well as a longer point of interconnection. And that is why, just based on the intent of this project overall is to create savings for the district as utility rates continue to increase year over year. We kind of want to hedge against that. And so while we thought it would be really good to have those costs to make these upgrades that we might eventually have to do anyway, rolled into this power purchase agreement, it has become kind of a concern that it could not be as feasible because of the amount of time sourcing materials, the costs, and based on most schools where I'm from in Southern California have a lack of space, versus in Tehachapi that is not an issue, which can be a great benefit. I guess it depends where you are. I see you, Trustee Kelly. Vice President Kelly, my apologies. But this is something that we are really trying to focus on. The intent is to generate savings for the district in the long term. As long as the utilization of space doesn't result in any kind of impediment of district plans now or in the future for the next 20 years, which I know is a big concern for the community. Next slide, please. So as part of the proposal, here is just a comparison. So obviously, because the canopy over parking lot array is a greater cost in constructing it, the amount that they would charge us, per kilowatt hour would be greater. Essentially, the cost would be 65% of the total cost if we went with the ground mount array, which is what we are proposing. But we wanted to provide here just what that looks like for the entire portfolio as a whole. So all the solar projects here are listed, and what it would look like if we went with the ground mount versus if we had utilized the canopy array. We have given this a lot of thought, and we think that the ground mount option, just based on some feedback that we've gotten from community members, board members, people, administration, we think that this is something that would provide a good benefit to the district as a whole. So comparing the estimated savings, if we use the ground mount over the course of the 20-year contract, would be about $580,000 compared to only $231,000. Utilizing the canopy. The other concern is that we'd like to get the projects completed in this upcoming summer. This does not utilize any of our own internal staff. It's just kind of for the monitoring. It would take up our facilities director, my time, but for the most part, this is all a cost that's being covered and recouped through this power purchase agreement. So we were proposing the ground mount array, and but this is an information item because it does, this is kind of this program that you guys are kind of inheriting. The agreement, we are in the agreement, we are moving forward, but because this is something that has each element has its pros and cons, we would like to solicit your feedback.
Any questions from a board member? Trustee Dew Sorensen?
How long after spending the money you can project that it'll pay off?
So we don't have access to the actual cost of the project because it's no upfront cost to us. The project does result in savings in the first year, and we are estimating that the district would, in the very first year, estimated about $75,000 worth of less that we would pay for utilities. And as because that is a fixed rate for that blue section, that was what we pay for the agreement. The rest of it does kind of change, but the difference is the savings. So as the cost of using SoCal Edison or PG&E would increase, that is essentially the ongoing savings that we have.
Thank you.
Any other board member?
Being that the goal is to save the district money, I'm still in favor of it. I do have a concern about the ADA for the ramp and the different things because we are now aware. And I know that there will be a plan when the plan needs to happen for those. But once again, like I said, I think it's a good plan. I still just want to put that out there, that's my concern.
Anyone else?
I do. So I'm new to this project, obviously. This installment would help utilities for all the schools, correct? Like the whole district as a whole, right?
Yes, all school sites.
Okay, and then to Kelly's point as well, I had a child in a wheelchair. So are we not currently at ADA standards at the school?
So the ADA standards would change over time, and so I believe that someone might have to provide me with the historical information on when Golden Hills was developed, but I believe it was in the 80s.
It was a while ago, yeah.
Yes, so at that time it would have been, but as rules change, you're essentially grandfathered in as long as it does not create any kind of detriment. The thing, though, is that I do understand where you're coming from, that's why the project, if we were to create, essentially construct anything outside of repairing, modernizing, constructing, upgrading, results in having to upgrade as a whole. And so that is why that is an option, but it does create some impediments to the plan in terms of timeliness, cost, in trying to make sure that it gets done within this fiscal, like this school year or this upcoming summer. And because of the benefit of the kind of space that we do have available, and just because that western side of the campus is not really being utilized, it doesn't have any real plans for it, and it's so close to this other point of connection that as far as just the solar project in isolation, that it would be a viable option.
Okay. I think the first option would be better because eventually you're going to have to upgrade those ADA options. And then not only that, like from a, just like in general, like I know we don't have plans currently, but if you have plans for those fields, even if it's after 20 years, like you can no longer, in my mind is once we take those fields for those solar panels, you have eliminated access to that completely. So when it comes to like moving forward and long-term longevity, I would recommend the first option, just because you're looking for feedback.
Yes.
Because eventually you're going to have to upgrade those ADA options. You don't want to cut yourself off from, potential land that you might need for sports or buildings or whatnot. I know 20 years seems a long ways, but I don't know. I think it comes a lot faster than we realize. So that's just my recommendation.
I wouldn't say that electing for the ground mount array option means that we don't ever have to. If anything, I would say that it creates the opportunity to generate savings where we would have the funds to tackle some of these kinds of projects. Because typically, kind of construction, any high-level construction for schools is typically doesn't come out of like our operating funds, but we do have routine restricted maintenance, which is just to make sure that, now that it's raining, some things are leaking and having to fix things, or, we have laid out carpet and now, we have like a schedule of replacing carpet because it's, that's part of routine maintenance.
Correct.
But in order to tackle some of these projects, they do kind of take up a significant investment of cost. But yes, electing this does not mean that we would not have to consider tackling some of these projects
Well, I
for
don't think it
compliance.
wouldn't like take it away. I'm just, it seems like something you can address now and be ahead and be proactive and, keep our facilities state of the art as best we can and the best, also from a perspective of like beauty, I think it'd be prettier. Not that that's my reason why, but I just think like being proactive, if we know that we're grandfathered in and it's something from the 80s, maybe that's something that we should definitely take into consideration. Although I know it's like to code, but as we have more and more students and more population growth, I think that's something that should definitely be taken into consideration. And why not do it now? Because it is essentially a savings. You're not spending extra money as far as our budget goes to fix this problem or not potential opportunity right now. To me, it would just be wise to be proactive.
You were waiting for my comment, weren't you? I could see it in your face. December 2020 was my very first meeting, and I was adamantly opposed to this from the very beginning. I'm with Trustee Sweeney, taking up land to save money. I get it, we're saving money. Taking up land on a very small island where there is no growth, there is no ability to grow within the Golden Hills Elementary specifically. To me is a very bad thing, and maybe you'll be here in 20 years when we need to do that, and that'll be on you to figure that out, because it will be on you, and I will be on the record of saying I'm adamantly opposed to this. Our facilities are very limited as it is. This savings is very small in comparison to a $60-some million budget. And in addition to that, Golden Hills is in a residential neighborhood. This is not being a good neighbor. This is putting up large solar panels on a canopy. In addition to that, I don't know what the street is on the west side of the school that will be looking directly at the solar panels in that field. If I was a community member there, I'd be livid that they already bought into living there or they're renting there, and they recognize that we're living next to a school, which brings its own set of problems, traffic, noise, whatever. That's on them. But now we're going in and saying, oh, by the way, here you go, here's some solar panels. And just like every solar contractor in the world, oh, they're not that big of a deal. It's come on, they're 7-8 feet tall when they're up and, they're not pretty. They're ugly. They're hideous. So again, this is informational only, so I'm going to give you my information that I will be adamantly opposed to this for a very, very long time. And I will remind you of your name in 20 years when that school is like, well, can't expand. We're on a contract. Well, talk to Hojat and Tazari. So I will continue to be adamant that these schools are limited. Like I said last meeting, I grew up in Cummings Valley School when it was dirt, rocks, and portables out there, and we expanded. If our forefathers said, well, let's put windmills over there, it would have been all kinds of cumbersome process to get rid of that and to build. So it's on you, it's on the staff, and it's on the board that votes yes. So I will be adamantly opposed to it moving forward. So write that down.
Thank you for distributing the blame. I appreciate that.
That's my 5th time saying it, so there you go.
Any other comments?
I would ask that you guys, I think it will be prudent to reach out to the community members in the area across the street. I wish I'd brought this up in December 2020. You should ask them, or at least notify them and let them know that their voices should be heard. You're not a good neighbor by doing that. That's not a good neighbor to build large structures in a residential neighborhood, just like I was with the cell phone tower at the high school. We're bad neighbors. We already create impact in the community, traffic, noise, whatever. You should reach out to them. That would be the right thing to do.
Mr. Antasari, did you provide clarification to the board on the height of the ground mounts? Do you have that in your diagram? Or is
I
that
do
something
not
we
have
can?
that in the diagram, but I
That's
can
because that's
receive
something
it.
that we could bring back to you so you could clearly make a distinction between the canopy height and the ground mount height. So we'll prepare that for February.
And I think that's a really good idea to, I think we should have, get the information to Principal Bailey and take a short little walk. If you want me to go with you, the superintendent, whoever, just ask those folks about it, what their opinions would be. I think that would be being a good steward. And when do we, it says in the notes that we need to approve this, obviously not tonight, but
February 14th is when, we said we've got some time to do that. I'm happy to walk too.
all right, thank you. Thank you. Let's take a short break. I just want to check on Trustee Cooper.
Time is 7:16, Ms. Almaker.
Okay, let's go back to open session at 7:24. Mr. Intezari, thank you for item number 1. Number 2, information item local control funding formula, LCFF.
Thank you very much, President Kaminsky. This is at the request of yourself to explain how the local control funding formula works, since it's essentially our largest source of revenue, and it is derived based on student attendance. So we'll briefly just kind of walk you through how this works and how we derived at the amount that we estimate to receive of $44.9 million for this upcoming fiscal year. Next slide, please. So it's a bit challenging to explain, so I've tried to really summarize it. And so what I'll start with is just what are the inputs that go into the calculation. So to start off, we were inserting the COLA. So the COLA percentage is essentially the amount that the state revenues will increase percentage-wise for to adjust for, you know, things like inflation, right? And it also kind of depends on the fiscal condition of the state for that year and future projections. So once we understand the COLA, we know that $1 that we would have received last year, if it's a 5% COLA, we're going to receive $1.05 for this year. So next would be local property taxes. So the amount of property taxes that we collect within the district boundaries, it goes into the calculation. Another thing we have is district enrollment. How many students we have clearly is a big factor in how much to determine the amount the district is going to be entitled to. And I think it's clear to discern that I'm talking about how much the district is entitled to, not so much how much the district receives, and I'll explain why. So at the time of the first interim, we had an enrollment of 4,180. Okay, another input would be the unduplicated pupils. So that is essentially the population of student that we have, low income, that qualify for free and reduced lunches, which is kind of a dated factor because now we have universal meals, but still an important factor. We also have foster, homeless, English learners, and those students derive a supplemental portion. If your district has over a 65% population of that population of student, you would receive additional money, but Tehachapi does not, which is a big reason why when you look at other school districts in our county and you compare their revenues per student compared to ours, you'll see that they're significantly higher. Also, average daily attendance is important, and this is this is probably the biggest factor because it's essentially our enrollment factoring in the amount of absences per student. So the state only gives you money for the amount of time a student is present. So if a student is present 100% of the time, their ADA is 1. So when we returned from virtual learning, the enrollment was about 85%. That had to do with various things that were going on at that time. Before any of the school closures, we were looking at about 94%, 95% attendance per student. But now, because we're a little more sensitive to whether someone is sick or just virtual learning options, now statewide and in Tehachapi, we're looking at about 91%. So this is an important factor because it's also changed how we are funded. So because the state is experiencing declining enrollment, before you used to be funded on your ADA of last year, if it were, or this year, whichever one is higher, but now we have been given the option to do a 3-year average in order to create what they call a soft landing, just to make sure that we don't experience a giant decline in revenues and have the ability to kind of adjust as we move forward. Next slide, please. Were there any questions on that, by the way? Sorry. Okay. So here is just kind of a breakdown of how this calculates out for TUSD. So here you'll see that for different grade groups, we get different amounts. I don't know if anybody knew that, but so for a full ADA for TK to 3 to 3rd grade, we get about $1,273. Grades 4 through 6, we get a little bit less at $912. Grade 7 through 8, $626 and some change. And then high schoolers, it jumps back up to $1,172.17. And that's per ADA. So the TK to 3, so the very beginning grades, and then the high school years receive what's called, that was our ADA amounts. And then so the base amount we receive is $9,166 for the TK to 3. And so you'll see that we receive about $9,000 per full ADA, and we in the high school years we get about $11,000 per ADA. And that's because essentially the idea is that your younger students and then your older students are the ones that essentially require more support, more cost. Our ADA is in total is a little over 4,000, or I didn't total it for you, but 1,273 for grades TK to 6, 912 4th to 6th graders, 626 for grade 7 through 8, and 1,172 ADA for our high school. So if you just kind of divided that by 91%, you'd get closely to what our enrollment is. So grades TK to 3 get an additional $953. We called that the grade span adjustment. So it's just an additional amount of money for that grade span. You'll see that 4 to 6 and grades 7 and 8 do not get a grade span adjustment, and then we get $289 additional dollars per ADA for the high school years. As I mentioned, the UPP percentage, so there's a supplemental funding for that population, and then if you exceed a certain threshold, then you would be entitled to concentration funding. So if there was a concentration, like on my calculator, that concentration column is 0. But here, we do receive some supplemental money, and then on the far right is the total of what each grade group generates in revenue, or at least in entitlement to revenue. And there are some additional caveats. So there's the Targeted Instructional Improvement Block Grant. This is a flat amount that we continue to receive year over year. The Home to School Transportation is, again, another flat amount that has been received year over year. As I had presented at the first interim, we are supposed to be receiving additional dollars for transportation, but that is not built into the calculator, so I didn't present it as part of the LCFF calculation. That was accounted for in just another state revenue category. So as far as the LCFF is concerned, that flat amount, the same amount we received last year, that $586,000, that's what's being accounted for in the LCFF again this year. And we also receive a little bit of bump for our transitional kindergarten students. So if you total all of that, that nets out to that $44,891,000 that was recorded in the first interim as part of LCFF apportionment. Do we have any questions? No? Okay, great. So the reason why, next slide, please. So the reason why I wanted to clarify entitlement is because not every district is the same, right? So the property taxes takes a big, is a really big factor in this, because based on the calculation, based on our type of student population, the amount of students we have, how often they come to school, the state calculation says that we are entitled to that 44.9 million. So the state will say, well, you already receive 14.1 million in property tax. So if you live in your really nice high property tax areas like San Francisco, Newport Beach, Beverly Hills, your property taxes can exceed what you're entitled to, and those are called basic aid. But most districts are not like that. There is also a supplemental tax that is charged to certain high-income earners, an additional 0.25% sales tax in California that generates what's called money that goes into the Education Protection Act. That is an ongoing source of funds for the district, for all districts in California. So that goes into the calculation. So they look at, this is how much you get in property tax, this is how much you get in Education Protection Act money. And so when they compare that to our entitlement, the state aid is what makes up the difference. So these three factors, it's what adds up to our LCFF entitlement. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Tazari. We'll be playing with this in a few months, correct?
Yes. So at the second interim will be reporting as of January 31st, and that will be reported at the March regular board meeting.
Thank you very much. Now we have item 3, approval of donation of materials and labor for Tehachapi High School varsity baseball bullpens and district contribution of funds.
Thank you, President Kaminsky. The Warriors Booster Club president, Mr. Corey Costello, and his team, as well as the Tehachapi High School coach, Mr. Guy Dees, have received a generous offer from local licensed contractors. I'd like to identify them. Tehachapi Hauling and Home Repair, TS Framing, as well as Chewy's Concrete, and they'd like to provide the materials and labor necessary to install new home and away bullpens. Just in case no one is aware of what a bullpen is, it's essentially where a pitcher will warm up for a baseball game. And so these, if you have seen the ones that we have at our current varsity field, they are have suffered from erosion and time. They're just kind of offset, just kind of haphazardly to the side. When the students have to enter the game, they kind of have to go around some spectators and enter the game. And so with their generous donation of time and effort, they'd like to add new bullpens on both the home and away side. And this would, the intention is to provide a better game experience for both players and spectators. So essentially, we're looking at about 70 to 75 feet worth of space further out from where the current bullpens are to allow more room for spectators. So the work that is being proposed is valued at, according to the contractors, at about $5,300. But personally, I think that could be potentially a bit more because of the price of concrete and labor. But we are excited that they are willing to provide the time in order to, and to list what they would be doing is provide demolition, removal of current debris, ground preparation, concrete pouring, installation of a new pitching mound, as well as preparing the home plate area. And the district would be contributing the fencing for those areas, as well as installing a gate that goes into the field instead of outside around spectators so that the pitchers and players can enter the game directly. We will be, for the volunteer work, we will require a waiver from the volunteering organizations in order to release the district from liability. But we are excited to be able to team together, accept their generous offer, and be able to provide a better experience for both, the home and away teams. The district is not completely off the hook. We will need to spend approximately $20,000 for the fencing, but this is a much needed improvement for not only the aesthetics, but also the safety of the players, and we seek your approval for this donation.
Any questions or comments from the public? I did want to point out, I had inquired with the superintendent on Friday and with Mr. Intezari today that with the donation of labor that CSEA be contacted, and they very generously approved that the volunteer work be done. We don't have to have their approval, but it's always nice to ask because it is volunteer. So thank you for the superintendent and for Mr. Intezari for getting that so fast. Do I have a motion or any discussion?
I have a comment real quick.
Okay.
Maybe you said it and maybe I've forgotten, but if you've ever gone to the fields there to watch a game, that whole section where the bullpen is, you can't really sit and watch. Seating is very limited there, and this will improve that drastically. So that's a much needed improvement there. Thank you guys for partnering with them. I think this is an incredible relationship with the boosters, and I hope that these types of things continue to come in. Good savings for us and win-win for everybody. So thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no other discussion, do I have a motion to accept or to approve the improvement. Let me read it.
I'll make the motion. Oh.
I motion.
Is it, do we have a motion to approve, for the board to approve the donation of materials and labor for Tehachapi High School varsity baseball bullpens as presented?
I'll make the motion.
I make a motion.
Okay, we have a,
Second motion.
we have a first motion from trustee Napier and a
Get the
second.
hang of this.
Yes, and a second from trustee Du Sorensen. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I'm always for donations.
Item 4, approval of declaring certain district property as surplus, obsolete technology.
Thank you,
Mr.
President
Tazari.
Kaminsky. The Technology Department is requesting that the obsolete and broken items listed, primarily made up of obsolete Chromebook cards as well as interactive whiteboards from Cummings Valley that were replaced with newer versions, be removed and disposed of, and we seek your approval to identify the items as surplus.
Any questions or discussion from the public? Board? I'll just make a comment. I was at CV when the PTO purchase, Mr. Lowe was as well, he's nodding his head, very generously installed. They were like the guinea pig of the district to have smart boards. And having used the newer smart boards, they're much, much better, but still, it was a great investment by the PTO club at Cummings Valley. Any other discussion or questions?
I just have a question. Is this something that's required to be on the agenda, or it cannot be on consent? I rarely think that we're going to argue with broken chairs and desks being like, no, let's keep them. But I'm assuming
You'd
there's
be
some rule.
surprised.
There's probably some rule. I mean, we can always pull it off there, but I mean, is there some rule that requires this?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Is there?
I believe that
okay.
there is, that it has to be called out separately, and it requires a roll call vote as well.
We need a roll call vote for trash.
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
I can tell you stories, trustee Napier. So do I have a? So it's recommended the board approve declaring certain district property as surplus, obsolete from technology as presented. Do I have a motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
It was motioned by trustee Du Sorensen, seconded by clerk Wood, and this is a roll call vote.
President Kaminsky.
Aye.
Vice President Kelly.
Aye.
Clerk Wood.
Aye.
Trustee Cooper.
Aye.
Trustee Du Sorensen.
Aye.
Trustee Napier.
Aye.
Trustee Sweeney.
Aye.
I always can make art out of it.
Thank you, Mr. Intezari. Instructional Services, Mrs. Paxton.
Good evening, Board of Trustees.
All right, just a second, I'm going between screens. Information item, Williams complaint, quarterly report.
Okay, California Code of Regulations, Title V, Section 4600-4687 requires a Williams complaint report to be provided to the board on a quarterly basis. This quarter, there was one Williams complaint filed for the period of October 1st through December 31st, 2022. This complaint was in regard to teacher vacancy or misassignment and has been resolved. TUSD is experiencing some struggles finding qualified candidates for certain teacher positions, as are all school districts in California and outside of California. Although we flew this opening related to this Williams complaint multiple times and went through the interview process, we were unable to find a viable candidate. We have now partnered with Edmentum to fill this need with an appropriately credentialed teacher for the remainder of the school year.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the public? From the board?
I have a question. Is the, I could talk long enough.
No, it's got to be
Okay.
recorded.
Does every classroom have a William compliant sign up in their room?
Yes, every school was given a notice to be posted, and we did go around. Yeah, they're posted at the front door in a bright color.
All right, thanks.
All right, number two, item 2, approval of the comprehensive school safety plans for the 2022-2023 school year.
All right, pursuant to Board Policy 1450, the School Site Council shall develop a comprehensive school safety plan relevant to the needs and resources of each particular school. This safety plan shall take into account the school's staffing, available resources, building design, as well as other factors unique to this site. All TUSD safe school plans contain the required elements as established by the California Department of Education. Tehachapi Unified School District partners with document tracking services to ensure that all safety plans have the required components as defined by the California Department of Education and have consistent formatting. TUSD not only has the required elements in each of their safety plans, but has additional elements to increase safety at each of our school site campuses. And I have a slide with some of those additional components.
Ms. Paxton, excuse me, I'm going to interrupt you. We have a public comment on this. And I think Mr. Reels, I'm going to give him the microphone to make his comment, and then you'll resume, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Mr. Reel?
Should the district not finish with their presentation before because he may have additional questions or comments to make based on her presentation.
That's a good point. He doesn't mind, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so on the slide I have displayed are some additional elements that are implemented at our school site. This year we've increased camera coverage at Tehachapi High School, at Tompkins, and then Cummings Valley did not have cameras, so we have added cameras to that campus. Currently we're in progress of adding live feed cameras at each of the sites. Also in progress, we're adding reflective window film, and this has just started to happen at the Tehachapi Education Center. And from there, we'll be moving to other sites. Also, we are currently exploring, it's called Life Spot app, and this was recommended by TPD. And this is an application that allows school staff, school administrators to communicate through a group texting app that also includes emergency responders. And so we have a demonstration from the company on this Friday. And then also we partnered with California School Resource Officers Association to go through an active shooter training with all of our site administrators. And then this training was delivered to each school staff. Also, we are in progress of adding automatic locks for all of our school offices for the reception area. And then also we have the Raptor system that's at each site. So when visitors come on campus, they are screened to make sure that they are able to be on a school campus. And then this year, we offered Narcan training to our certificated and classified staff. And the training that we initially offered, I would say we had a little over 40 people trained on how to administer Narcan. And then we still have ongoing training that's happening via our nurses at school sites. And then we have updated our daily practices at school sites. So when you're at a school site, all of our doors are to remain locked. Just as a precaution if someone were to get on our campus. And then Mr. Kaminsky, you had recommended the My Shake app, which I was not familiar with. So we are having our administrators add that to their district phone. I have it on my phone. It's pretty awesome, I would say. Yeah. But so those are some of the additional features that we have that go above and beyond what's required on our safety plans. And that is all I have. So we would like to ask that the board consider approving our safety plans tonight.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the public? I guess, Mr. Reel?
Thank you, members of the board, for hearing me speak twice tonight. I think these plans are acceptable and they should be approved. My comments mostly procedural in nature and a little bit of content. I forwarded you a checklist for reviewing the school site safety plans, and you'll note that the second item on the checklist is that the plans are written and developed by the school site council. Across our schools, the site councils were essentially handed a finished plan and asked to approve it. And I get it, like, they're not going to sit down and write these whole plans. But citing safety concerns, the school site council members weren't permitted to pre-read or retain copies of the plans, and were only able to review the copies physically during the meeting for approval. And I think most of us thought that seemed somewhat reasonable, I guess. But now all the safety plans are publicly attached to the agenda. So it seems absurd that this SSC members that are supposed to be authors of the plan weren't permitted advanced reads to go to the approval meetings. There's one element of the plans that I'd like to bring up, and it was mentioned earlier after the tragedy in I don't know how to say it, sorry. Uvalde, there we go. The district implemented the policy that classrooms be locked at all times. And I'll say at face value, that seems like a good idea, but there's second order effects. In some classrooms, the teacher is interrupted frequently to open the door every time a student comes back from a pullout. Every time a student goes to the bathroom, there's a second interruption to open the door when they come back. And with all the doors closed, will teachers hear horseplay in the bathrooms? And how long before a student experiencing a seizure in the hallway would be discovered? And furthermore, the district's learning that there are some conditions that I won't go into here that can occur where the locked door policy is not feasible. So hopefully we're being honest with ourselves that that policy is a crutch, and most of the locks on classroom doors can only be locked and unlocked from the exterior. So the real solution is giving teachers the ability to lock and unlock their doors from inside the classroom. Hopefully that's on the radar for a future facilities improvement. Maybe a good subject for the Facilities Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reel. Do I have a motion to, as it's recommended, the board approve the comprehensive school safety plans for the 2022-2023 school year as presented? Motion?
I motion it.
Second?
I'll second.
It's motion by trustee Du Sorensen, seconded by clerk Wood, that the board approve the comprehensive school safety plans. Is there a vote? Aye. Any ayes?
Aye.
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 Sorry, any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
I was wondering if he was aware that we have to, the schools have to.
Item 3 was pulled. Item 4, approval of coursework AP drawing.
All right, the Visual and Performing Arts Department at Tehachapi High School wishes to offer a new class, AP Drawing. This course is an introductory college-level course designed for students to refine and apply drawing skills to ideas they develop throughout the course. This is a year-long AP course for students in grades 11 and 12. We seek your approval for this course.
Any comments or questions from the public? From the board? Do I have a motion to approve the coursework AP drawing as presented?
Kelly, make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It was approved by Vice President Kelly and seconded by Trustee Sweeney that we approve the coursework AP drawing as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item 5, approval of coursework AP 3D Art and Design.
We seek your approval tonight to offer the course, the Visual and Performing Arts Department, we wish to seek your approval for the coursework AP 3D Art and Design brought forth by the Visual and Performing Arts Department at Tehachapi High School. This course is an introductory college-level three-dimensional design course designed for students to refine and apply 3D skills to ideas they develop throughout the course. This is a year-long AP course developed for students in grades 11 and 12.
Any comments or questions from the public? Questions, comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve the coursework AP 3D Art and Design as presented?
Motion.
Kelly, a second.
It was, a motion was made by Trustee Du Sorensen and seconded by Vice President Kelly to approve the coursework AP 3D Art and Design as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item 6, approval of coursework Ceramics 2. Ms. Paxton.
The Visual and Performing Arts Department at Tehachapi High School wishes to offer a new class, Ceramics 2. This course builds upon the stable foundation that was established and developed in Ceramics 1. Advanced Ceramics introduces new, more challenging techniques, methods, concepts, and vocabulary to extend the students' understanding of the medium into levels of greater depth. This is a year-long course for students in grades 10 through 12.
Any questions or comments from the public? Board, do you have any questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve the coursework Ceramics 2 as presented?
All motion.
Kelly, a second.
It was motioned by Trustee Du Sorensen and seconded by Vice President Kelly to approve the coursework Ceramics 2 as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item 7, approval of coursework beginning guitar.
The Visual and Performing Arts Department at Tehachapi High School wishes to offer a new class, Beginning Guitar. The course is designed for the beginning guitar player, but those with experience will benefit as well. The classical guitar approach will be the primary focus, although modern techniques and songs will also be included. This is a year-long course available to students in grades 9 through 12.
Any questions or comments from the public? Any questions, comments from the board? Do I have a motion to approve the coursework beginning guitar as presented?
Motion.
Kelly, a second.
It was motioned by Trustee Du Sorensen, seconded by Vice President Kelly to approve the coursework beginning guitar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Item 8, approval of coursework music appreciation.
The Visual and Performing Arts Department at Tehachapi High School wishes to offer a new class, Music Appreciation. This course familiarizes students with the history and theory of music. This course explores the historical, cultural, social, and personal context of music from each period. Music appreciation is designed to help students cultivate an appreciation for many types of music by developing informed listening skills. This is a year-long course available to students in grades 9 through 12.
Do you have any questions or comments from the public? Questions, comments from the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
I waited till the end for this one. Will all these be available next year?
That is the hope, but it depends on the interest level of the students. So we're approving this, and if we have enough interest level and it fits in the master schedule, then yes.
How will the students know that these are,
They're going to be added to the course catalog.
okay, and then at what point during the year will they begin that process?
It'll be added for next year.
I mean, this year, at what point this year will they begin to know, oh, hey, the catalog shows these, and then they talk to their counselor? At what point do they do that?
Well, yeah, next week, but we're also going to be working on the master schedule beginning in February.
Okay.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to, Do I have a motion to approve the coursework music appreciation as presented?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It was motioned by Clerk Wood, seconded by Trustee Deuce Sorensen, that the board approve the coursework music appreciation. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Baxton.
I think it's great.
Lunch.
Thank you, President Kaminsky. Well done. So in following the tradition that we established this year with Capturing Kids' Hearts, we like to end our meeting as we encourage our teachers to end their class periods on a positive note, sending kids on for the rest of their day in an encouraging, motivating, and positive way. So I tend to invite various staff members and want to say that if any of you as board members have an interest in providing a launch at a future meeting, please let me know. Same goes for community members and staff, that if you have an idea for a launch and you'd be willing to share it, please send me an email or give me a call and I will hook you up for a launch. But tonight's launch is going to be presented by Santa Claus. It's going to be presented by Ryan McKay, who has a great message to share with us.
Speak first on the Santa Claus experience. It was very fun to have the kids just rush you the second you walk into a room and jump on you. Thankfully, the Santa pants go over your regular clothes, because one kid had their legs wrapped around and just pants Santa right in the middle of the class. But my quote for today comes from a book I read last month, and during the reading of this book, this passage stood out. In the context of the story, the character was struggling with his burdens, his past, his present, and his future, feelings of not being good enough, and the responsibility of having other people under his charge. Under the weight of these pressures and feelings, he was about to give up. During this breaking point, he reflected on the most important step a man can take and determined that it wasn't the first step, it was the next one, to keep going. I believe this is a good thought to keep in mind and is relevant to education, whether things are good or bad, to keep making the next step.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. And I just want to say, when you look around the room and you hear from our staff, it's just another validation that, Mr. McKay, in all seriousness, I want to thank you for being Santa for the TILA students. I know you enjoyed being there and doing it, but again, it's just an uplifting, engaging way that students came to school and got to have that, because we have staff who's willing to go the extra mile and to take the next step. So thank you for that, and thank you for tonight's launch.
Yes, thank you, Mr. McKay. And at 8:03, I am going to adjourn this board meeting.